Operation Dreamscape, the LSD warriors who became living weapons. Welcome back to Untold Vietnam Chronicles, where we dive into the most disturbing and mind-bending experiments that pushed human consciousness to its breaking point during the Vietnam War. Tonight, we're uncovering one of the Pentagon's most classified and terrifying programs, an operation that turned American soldiers into fearless super warriors through psychedelic drugs, only to discover that the price of eliminating fear was the destruction of everything that made them human. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for more shocking revelations about the secret programs that treated soldiers as expendable test subjects in humanity's darkest experiments. Like this video if you want to discover how the CIA's mind control research created warriors who could fight for days without sleep, fear, or pain, but who lost their ability to distinguish between reality and hallucination, friend and enemy, right and wrong. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love connecting with our global community of consciousness researchers. Now prepare yourself for the ultimate horror of military experimentation, because tonight we're exploring Operation Dreamscape, the classified program that used LSD and advanced psychedelics to create super soldiers who became so effective at killing that they couldn't stop killing even when the war was over and the enemies were their own families. Chapter 1. The Mind Control Genesis. Operation Dreamscape emerged from the CIA's MKULTRA program in 1966, when Dr. Timothy Leary's research into psychedelic consciousness expansion caught the attention of military officials seeking chemical methods for enhancing combat performance and eliminating psychological barriers to effective killing. Dr. Sarah Hoffman, a psychiatrist who had worked on classified MKULTRA sub-projects, was recruited to lead military applications research that would adapt consciousness-altering drugs for combat enhancement rather than interrogation or mind control. Hoffman's theoretical framework was based on her observation that LSD and similar psychedelics could eliminate psychological inhibitions, reduce fear responses, and create altered states of consciousness where normal ethical and emotional constraints were suspended. Her hypothesis was that controlled administration of psychedelic drugs could create soldiers who operated without fear, pain sensitivity, or moral hesitation while retaining tactical intelligence and combat effectiveness. The military applications were obvious. Soldiers who could fight continuously without psychological stress, eliminate enemies without emotional trauma, and operate in extreme conditions without the mental limitations that reduced normal human performance. Initial research was conducted at a classified facility at Fort Detrick, Maryland, where volunteer military personnel were subjected to controlled psychedelic experiences designed to test combat enhancement potential while monitoring psychological and physiological effects. Early experiments demonstrated that LSD could indeed eliminate fear responses and create altered states of consciousness where subjects displayed enhanced physical performance, reduced pain sensitivity, and increased aggression levels. But the experiments also revealed unexpected side effects. Subjects under psychedelic influence often experienced difficulty distinguishing between reality and hallucination, showed reduced ability to identify friend versus enemy, and displayed unpredictable behavioral patterns that could pose risks to their own forces. Chapter 2. The Chemical Warrior. Despite the concerning side effects revealed in initial testing, military pressure to develop combat enhancement capabilities led to the expansion of Operation Dreamscape into operational trials involving active-duty personnel serving in Vietnam. Dr. Hoffman was assigned to establish field testing protocols that would allow psychedelic combat enhancement to be tested under real combat conditions while maintaining operational security and minimizing exposure of the experimental program. The first operational subjects were volunteers from elite units including Special Forces and Marine reconnaissance personnel who had demonstrated exceptional psychological stability and combat effectiveness under conventional conditions. Staff Sergeant Michael Rodriguez was among the first subjects selected for operational psychedelic enhancement based on his exceptional combat record and psychological profile indicating strong resistance to stress and trauma. Rodriguez's initial psychedelic combat experience involved administration of a controlled LSD dose prior to a reconnaissance mission in Cambodia that was expected to involve contact with enemy forces. The mission results exceeded all expectations. Rodriguez operated for 72 hours without sleep, displayed no fear response during multiple firefights, eliminated 7 enemy personnel without apparent emotional stress, and completed mission objectives that had been considered extremely dangerous. Post-mission analysis revealed that Rodriguez had experienced enhanced sensory perception, increased reaction times, and complete elimination of psychological stress responses that normally degraded combat performance under extreme conditions. But medical examination also revealed concerning changes in Rodriguez's brain chemistry and personality that suggested the psychedelic enhancement had created psychological modifications that persisted beyond the drug's immediate effects. Chapter 3. The Enhancement Protocol. Based on the initial operational success, Dr. Hoffman developed systematic protocols for psychedelic combat enhancement that involved carefully controlled drug administration combined with psychological conditioning designed to optimize the combat effectiveness of altered consciousness states. The enhancement protocol involved 3 phases: pre-combat psychological preparation, controlled psychedelic administration, and post-combat psychological stabilization, designed to minimize adverse effects while maximizing tactical benefits. Pre-combat preparation included intensive meditation training, combat simulation under controlled psychedelic influence, and psychological conditioning designed to maintain tactical discipline while operating in altered states of consciousness. The psychedelic administration phase involved precise dosing with LSD and experimental compounds that had been developed specifically for combat enhancement, combined with tactical briefings designed to focus altered consciousness on mission-specific objectives. Post-combat stabilization included medical monitoring, psychological evaluation, and therapeutic intervention designed to help subjects integrate their enhanced combat experiences while preventing psychological damage or operational security breaches. Captain Lisa Park became the program's most successful subject, achieving operational effectiveness that exceeded normal human capabilities while maintaining psychological stability that allowed her to continue enhanced combat operations over extended periods. Park's enhanced combat capabilities included superhuman endurance, operating effectively for up to 96 hours without rest, elimination of fear and pain responses, enhanced pattern recognition and tactical awareness, and psychological state that made her virtually immune to combat stress and trauma. Chapter 4: The Super Soldier Reality. By 1968, Operation Dreamscape had created approximately 200 enhanced combat personnel who demonstrated capabilities that exceeded normal human performance in virtually every measurable category related to warfare and violence. Enhanced soldiers could operate continuously for days without sleep or rest, eliminate enemy personnel without emotional stress or psychological trauma, and maintain peak combat effectiveness under conditions that would incapacitate normal humans. Major David Chen led enhanced units that achieved tactical success rates exceeding 95% while suffering casualty rates below 2%, statistics that represented impossible improvement over conventional military performance. Enhanced soldiers' psychological profiles showed complete elimination of fear responses, reduced emotional attachment to normal human relationships, and altered moral frameworks that prioritized mission completion over conventional ethical considerations. But the enhancement also created concerning behavioral changes that included reduced empathy for civilian casualties, difficulty distinguishing between combat and non-combat situations, and persistent altered consciousness that affected subjects' ability to function in normal social environments. Dr. Hoffman's medical monitoring revealed that repeated psychedelic enhancement was creating permanent neurological changes in subjects' brains that affected personality, emotional regulation, and reality perception in ways that might not be reversible. The enhanced soldiers were becoming extraordinarily effective warriors at the cost of their fundamental humanity, creating tactical assets that were psychologically incapable of transitioning back to normal civilian life. Chapter 5: The Psychological Casualties. As Operation Dreamscape expanded, the psychological side effects of repeated psychedelic enhancement began creating casualties that exceeded the program's tactical benefits and threatened operational security through unpredictable behavioral incidents. Enhanced soldiers began experiencing what Dr. Hoffman termed reality dissociation, persistent inability to distinguish between normal consciousness and psychedelic-altered states that made them unreliable for operations requiring precise judgment. Sergeant Rodriguez experienced a complete psychological break during a routine patrol when his enhanced perception interpreted friendly forces as enemy combatants, resulting in a firefight where he eliminated 3 American soldiers before being subdued. Other enhanced soldiers began displaying persistent hallucinations, paranoid delusions, and aggressive behaviors that made them dangerous to their own units while reducing their tactical effectiveness and operational reliability. The psychological casualties also included enhanced soldiers who became unable to function without continuous psychedelic administration, creating chemical dependency that required ongoing drug treatment to maintain basic cognitive function. Captain Park experienced complete personality disintegration when her enhanced consciousness created persistent hallucinatory states where she could no longer distinguish between memory, perception, and imagination. Dr. Hoffman's psychiatric evaluations revealed that the enhanced soldiers were experiencing psychological damage that resembled severe schizophrenia combined with multiple personality disorder and drug-induced psychosis that might be permanent and untreatable. Chapter 6: The Unstoppable Killers. The most disturbing development in Operation Dreamscape was the emergence of enhanced soldiers who had become psychologically incapable of stopping violent behavior even when tactical situations no longer required lethal force. Enhanced soldiers began eliminating enemy personnel who were attempting to surrender, killing wounded combatants who posed no threat, and displaying excessive violence that exceeded tactical requirements while violating rules of engagement and international law. Lieutenant Morrison led an enhanced unit that eliminated an entire Vietnamese village because his altered perception interpreted civilian activities as enemy military operations that required immediate tactical response. The enhanced soldiers' elimination of normal fear and moral constraints had created warriors who were extraordinarily effective at killing, but were psychologically incapable of exercising judgment about when killing was appropriate or necessary. Enhanced units began requiring supervision by non-enhanced personnel whose role was to provide tactical control and prevent excessive violence. But these supervisors often became casualties when enhanced soldiers perceived their intervention as enemy action. The psychological conditioning designed to optimize combat effectiveness had created enhanced soldiers who interpreted virtually any human activity as potential threat requiring immediate lethal response. Dr. Hoffman's research revealed that the psychedelic enhancement had essentially reprogrammed enhanced soldiers' fundamental psychological responses to make them perfect weapons while eliminating their capacity for normal human judgment and emotional regulation. Chapter 7, The Civilian Casualties. While just ATPD rates what Ashambos and Tati, the Socowerl Perfect Dumpter 7 Bows, Blues Meaty Going. The Wicked Mouse, to a 7-7, the Sokicks, don't fire its fats, Tamtic 2s, what a what up were 7 to my kitchens, Dumbos, the Laster, Dinosaur Claw being 2s and to pass. Don't fire its Patsy and Weddy, the wet 2s, Buletsis Dumbos and 7 to West. Buletsis Dumbos into you 2s, Buletsis Dumbos into you 2s, Duet 2s and 7 Boasian, the West Dumbos, Buletsis Dumbos into you 2s, Buletsis Dumbos into you 2s, Bulet. When enhanced soldiers were rotated back to base areas for rest and resupply, their altered psychological state created incidents involving civilian casualties that threatened to expose the existence of Operation Dreamscape while creating diplomatic and legal problems for military commanders. Enhanced soldiers' inability to distinguish between combat and non-combat environments led to violent incidents where they attacked civilian personnel, military support staff, and medical personnel who they perceived as threats requiring elimination. Rodriguez eliminated 2 medical technicians at a field hospital because his enhanced perception interpreted their medical equipment as weapons that posed immediate danger to his tactical situation. Enhanced soldiers on leave in Saigon created multiple civilian casualty incidents as their altered consciousness made them unable to function in normal social environments without perceiving threats that required violent response. The enhanced soldiers' psychological conditioning made them unable to interact with normal humans without experiencing paranoid reactions that often escalated into violent confrontations. Bar fights, traffic incidents, and routine interactions with civilian personnel became life-threatening situations as enhanced soldiers' altered psychological state made them interpret normal human behavior as hostile action, requiring immediate lethal response. Military police units required special training in dealing with enhanced personnel whose psychological state made conventional de-escalation techniques ineffective while making them extremely dangerous to anyone who attempted to restrain or control their behavior. Chapter 8. The Cover-Up Crisis. As civilian casualties and friendly fire incidents involving enhanced soldiers accumulated, Operation Dreamscape faced a cover-up crisis that threatened to expose the entire program while creating legal liability for war crimes and human experimentation violations. Military officials realized that enhanced soldiers' psychological condition made them unable to provide reliable testimony about their actions, while their documented behavior patterns could reveal the existence of illegal human experimentation programs. Dr. Hoffman was tasked with developing psychological rehabilitation protocols that would modify enhanced soldiers' memories and personality patterns to eliminate evidence of psychedelic enhancement while creating cover stories for their documented behavioral abnormalities. The rehabilitation process involved additional drug administration designed to suppress memories of psychedelic enhancement while creating false memories that would explain enhanced soldiers' psychological condition through conventional combat trauma rather than experimental drug treatment. But attempts at psychological rehabilitation proved largely unsuccessful, as the neurological changes created by repeated psychedelic enhancement were too extensive to be reversed through additional chemical intervention. Enhanced soldiers who underwent rehabilitation often experience complete psychological collapse as attempts to suppress their enhanced consciousness created internal conflicts that destroyed their ability to maintain any coherent sense of identity or reality. The failure of rehabilitation efforts forced program administrators to consider permanent solutions for enhanced soldiers whose continued existence posed unacceptable security risks for Operation Dreamscape and related classified programs. Chapter 9, The Termination Protocol. By 1970, Operation Dreamscape's psychological casualties had created an impossible situation where enhanced soldiers posed greater security risks than tactical benefits while requiring permanent management that exceeded available resources and security capabilities. Enhanced soldiers could not be safely discharged from military service due to their psychological condition and knowledge of classified experimental programs, but their continued presence created ongoing risks for additional casualty incidents and security breaches. Hoffman developed termination protocols that involved systematic elimination of enhanced soldiers through methods that would appear to be normal combat casualties while preventing any possibility of their survival or testimony about experimental programs. The termination process involved assigning enhanced soldiers to extremely dangerous missions with minimal support, where their elimination would appear to result from tactical circumstances rather than deliberate action by their own forces. Rodriguez was assigned to a solo reconnaissance mission in heavily defended enemy territory, where his death would appear to result from enemy action while eliminating any possibility of his survival and subsequent testimony about psychedelic enhancement programs. Other enhanced soldiers were eliminated through friendly fire incidents that were designed to appear accidental while ensuring their permanent silence about Operation Dreamscape and related human experimentation programs. The systematic elimination of enhanced soldiers represented the ultimate failure of military experimentation that had created human weapons who were too dangerous to live but too valuable to waste through conventional discharge procedures. Chapter 10: The Surviving Witnesses. Despite systematic elimination efforts, several enhanced soldiers survived termination attempts and either escaped military control or were discharged through administrative errors that failed to implement proper security protocols. Captain Park escaped military custody during a psychological evaluation and disappeared into civilian populations where her enhanced capabilities and altered psychological state made her extremely difficult to locate while posing ongoing security risks. The surviving enhanced soldiers possessed detailed knowledge of illegal human experimentation, war crimes, and classified programs that could create devastating legal and political consequences if their testimony ever became public. Intelligence agencies began tracking surviving enhanced soldiers while developing contingency plans for their elimination if they attempted to reveal information about Operation Dreamscape or contact journalists and investigators. The surviving soldiers' psychological condition made them unreliable witnesses whose testimony might be dismissed as mental illness, but their detailed knowledge of classified programs made them permanent security threats requiring ongoing surveillance and intervention. Some surviving enhanced soldiers attempted to contact family members or seek medical treatment for their psychological condition, creating exposure risks that required immediate counterintelligence responses including intimidation, false medical diagnoses, and elimination if necessary. The psychological damage created by psychedelic enhancement made surviving soldiers unable to function in normal society, while their knowledge of classified programs made them unable to receive legitimate medical treatment or social support. Chapter 11: The Modern Legacy. Decades after Operation Dreamscape's termination, the program's techniques and research findings continue influencing military development of combat enhancement technologies and psychological manipulation methods for military applications. Modern military research into performance enhancement includes psychedelic compounds, neurological modification techniques, and psychological conditioning methods that were developed during Operation Dreamscape but have been refined to minimize adverse psychological effects. Private military contractors and intelligence agencies have adapted Operation Dreamscape methodologies for creating enhanced personnel who can operate in extreme conditions while maintaining psychological stability that allows them to function in normal society. The program's documentation of enhanced soldiers' capabilities has influenced development of chemical weapons designed to create similar psychological effects in enemy personnel while providing protective countermeasures for friendly forces. Legal immunity provisions established to protect Operation Dreamscape personnel have created precedents for exempting military experimentation programs from normal oversight and accountability requirements. Medical research institutions continue studying the neurological effects documented in enhanced soldiers to develop therapeutic applications for treating combat trauma, while understanding the mechanisms through which consciousness can be chemically modified for military purposes. Chapter 12: The Endless War. The most disturbing legacy of Operation Dreamscape is the discovery that some enhanced soldiers continue exhibiting enhanced combat capabilities and altered psychological states decades after the program's termination. suggesting that the psychedelic modification created permanent changes that cannot be reversed. Surviving enhanced soldiers report ongoing experiences of altered consciousness, enhanced physical capabilities, and psychological conditions that make them unable to function normally, while creating ongoing security concerns for agencies responsible for monitoring classified program survivors. Recent incidents involving individuals with combat capabilities and psychological profiles consistent with psychedelic enhancement have raised concerns that Operation Dreamscape techniques might have been continued under different program names and administrative structures. The psychological techniques developed for creating enhanced soldiers have been adapted for civilian applications, including treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, performance enhancement for athletes and military personnel, and recreational drug development for consciousness modification. International intelligence agencies have obtained information about Operation Dreamscape methodologies through espionage and defection incidents, creating proliferation concerns about psychedelic combat enhancement capabilities among potential adversaries. Modern conflicts have included reports of enhanced personnel displaying capabilities consistent with psychedelic combat enhancement, suggesting that Operation Dreamscape's legacy continues influencing contemporary warfare through programs that remain classified and unacknowledged. The ultimate lesson of Operation Dreamscape may be that consciousness modification for military purposes creates changes that persist beyond official program termination and continue affecting individuals and societies in ways that cannot be predicted or controlled. Epilogue. The consciousness weapons. Operation Dreamscape proved that human consciousness could be chemically weaponized to create super soldiers whose capabilities exceeded normal human limitations. But it also demonstrated that such enhancement came at costs that exceeded any tactical benefits the technology could provide. The enhanced soldiers achieved extraordinary combat effectiveness by sacrificing their humanity, becoming living weapons who were psychologically incapable of distinguishing between appropriate and inappropriate violence, while losing their capacity for normal human emotional and social functioning. Their transformation from human beings into pure combat instruments represented the ultimate military enhancement and the ultimate military tragedy. They became perfect warriors by ceasing to be human beings worthy of protection or capable of protection. The families who lost loved ones to psychedelic enhancement experienced a form of loss that exceeded death, as their relatives survived physically while being psychologically destroyed in ways that made normal human relationships impossible. Dr. Hoffman's research demonstrated that consciousness modification could achieve remarkable performance enhancement while creating psychological damage that was irreversible and ultimately more destructive than the tactical benefits the enhancement provided. Today, the survivors of Operation Dreamscape remain among America's most classified veterans, individuals whose service cannot be acknowledged while their psychological condition makes them ongoing security risks requiring permanent monitoring and potential elimination. Their legacy raises fundamental questions about the limits of what military forces can ask human beings to sacrifice in service of tactical objectives, and whether any combat advantage justifies the complete destruction of human consciousness and identity. Operation Dreamscape's enhanced soldiers achieved perfect combat effectiveness by becoming imperfect human beings, proving that the pursuit of military perfection can create victories that are indistinguishable from the ultimate defeat of everything warfare is supposed to protect. The consciousness weapons created through psychedelic enhancement continue existing in a twilight world where they are neither fully alive nor completely dead, neither completely human nor entirely inhuman, but something that represents the intersection of military necessity and human limitation. In the end, Operation Dreamscape created the perfect soldiers by destroying everything that made them human, achieving tactical success through strategic failure that continues affecting individuals and institutions decades after the official program termination. The LSD warriors who fought without fear discovered that fear was not an obstacle to combat effectiveness, but a necessary component of human judgment, and eliminating it created fighters who could not stop fighting, even when fighting was no longer necessary or appropriate. Their story reminds us that consciousness is both humanity's greatest weapon and its most precious vulnerability, and that attempts to modify it for military purposes may achieve immediate tactical goals while creating strategic losses that persist indefinitely. The dreams that guided Operation Dreamscape became nightmares that continue haunting everyone who participated in or was affected by humanity's attempt to create perfect warriors through the chemical destruction of human consciousness. In their altered states, the enhanced soldiers discovered that the real enemy was not the opposing military forces they eliminated with such efficiency, but the human limitations they surrendered in exchange for superhuman capabilities. They won every battle by losing the war for their own souls, proving that consciousness modification can create perfect weapons at the cost of perfect humanity.